All right, so this video goes out to Elder Anthony. He asked a question, and this video is for you, buddy. If you ask a question, I will do my best to answer by video to show you step by step as best as I can. I do all my videos by phone, so if I have to use both hands, I have to cut, the parts where I have to put the phone down, if you know what I mean. So this video is for you. Now, on one of my McCulloch videos, I only have this one McCulloch saw on any of my videos, so I'm assuming it's this one. But he asked about how to change the chain on the saw. So I'm going to try to show you on this saw, step by step, on how to change your chain. And I'm going to try to give you a couple of pointers along the way. Then after I'm done, I'll put another saw up here and show you that one, because on McCulloch it has a chain brake, whereas most of my saws that I work on, they don't have a chain brake. So I'll just show you both types and put it all here in this one video for you, just in case you might have another one. Okay? All right, so here's the McCulloch. And the first thing you're going to want to do is you want to get this side cover off. This is the side with the muffler. You see the bar and chain. We need to get this off. There's 3 bolts we want to do. We want to do this one up here on the handle. And then there's 2 in here. I've already pulled these 2 bolts off just to help speed this up a little bit. But if you look in here, there's 2 bolts there. We want to get those 2 off. I believe they're 9/16. And I believe this one up here is a 1/2 inch. So we want to get these off. Okay? Once you have that off, this whole side cover should just slip right off. It's easy as that. Now we have the bar, the chain, the clutch, all this exposed. So what we got here, this is the clutch assembly, okay? If you see anything wrong here, if a busted spring or whatever, we got to do some more work, okay? Don't even bother continuing. More work wouldn't be needed. Just take a quick look and make sure nothing seems out of place. This is one of your bar plates. There's one on the inside and one on the outside. You need to take this off. Now, as you see here, here's your chain. Here's your bar. The bar, you just give it a little bit of wiggling, and you can get the chain loosened up to come off. I'm trying to do this with one hand, of course. So there, the chain's loose, and now I can pull the bar out of the way. Now, if the bar's out of the way, the chain easily will come right up and over and out. Okay, you get the idea? There is a sprocket in behind here for the chain to ride on. You kind of see it down in there. It kind of looks like a ring. That's where the chain rides, and those little grooves, or those little holes you see down there, that's where this here part rides, okay? Now, whenever you're putting this chain on, you always want to make sure that the teeth, you see the teeth? You always want to make sure that the pointy edge of the tooth is pointed forward of the saw, okay? Away from the clutch. That's the proper way to install it, is to make sure the pointy part is pointed away on the top side. Alrighty? Now, one thing to take and remember here, you see this bar plate? In here is a channel for oil to come out and lube up your chain. You see the holes? Lube will come out. That's where your bar oil comes out and makes contact with the chain to lube it up. Can you see the little hole there? And you follow it around, you see that hole? That's where the oil comes out to lube up the bar. And if you're not getting oil, the the chain will get real stiff on the bar and it'll start overheating and so forth. So you want to make sure that these holes are clear. That hole's clear as well, okay? Make sure all the sawdust is out. Another little trick is this rail here. You see the groove? You want to clean that out. And one of the things I do is I usually just take my bar plate and ride it down inside the groove to pull out any sawdust that might be in there. Okay. Now, to put this back on, you see this right here? Let me show you. This right here, this is what adjusts your chain. Okay, you see it wiggling out here? Let me expose this, clean some of this dust off. Okay, you see that screw? That's how you adjust how tight your chain is. Now this one's a little bent up, so I would probably replace it. And so whenever you're putting your bar on, you want to make sure this lines up with this hole. Okay, this one's where your oil's coming out. This is the hole for adjusting how tight the bar and chain are. Okay, now I'm going to work at putting this back on without the chain, just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. You want to make sure that they line up in the hole. You see how I did it? Make sure they line up. Now, if you cannot get the chain to go on, what you got to do is you got to loosen this up to allow the bar to push back so you can get the chain on. Then once you get the chain on, you just pull it out and get it seated back in place. And now you might have to adjust this a little bit to get it to line up. Alrighty. So let me, I'm going to have to put the phone down because I need two hands to do this next thing. I'm going to actually put the chain on the bar and show you how tightening it works. Okay, so you see how I got it installed? We got it right in the hole, and I got the chain installed the whole way out and around. Now I cannot show you the process of tightening this chain. You'll have to just wait a minute here until I do it on another saw to show you, because as I was doing this, I discovered the chain tensioner is broken. So let me pull another saw apart and I'll show you the process on a different saw. I'll show you a Homelite, something without a chain break. But basically, once we get to this point, it's just a matter of reinstalling our bar plate and then reinstalling our side and making sure our bolt holes are lined up. Okay, we got all three. Whoop. We got to make sure all the bolt holes are lined up. And as you can see, this is kind of difficult with one hand, so just hang out for a second and I'll show you on a different one that will actually work. Alrighty. Okay, so here's a Homelite Super XL Auto. This one does not have a chain break, so we only have 2 bolts right here that we're working with. Alright, so I'm going to pull those 2 bolts off and I'll show you this process. You'll see here's my bar plate, and you'll also notice that the bottom portion of it is missing. So this bar plate needs replaced. There should be more coming on down to about this far, okay? And that's missing. It broke off at some point, and I'm assuming the chain popped off and broke it. Now you'll see this sprocket and clutch design is a little bit different because it's on the outside. These are easier to change the chain, but the other one is what they call a rim drive sprocket, and people claim they work better, but I'll be honest, I really don't notice much of a difference. So I'm actually completely fine with this style. I think that I find them easy to work with. So I'm going to pull this bar plate off, and you'll see the chain tensioner right here. It's much bigger and heavier. You notice that? It's one of those things, they just don't make them like they used to, if you know what I mean. I believe this was built in '73. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bar and pull out a little bit, and you'll see it just loosens right up. Chain starts coming off. All we do to pull it off is just, pull it off. It comes right off, real easy. So let me go ahead and finish pulling this off. Now here's what we call the inner bar plate. And if you look up here, this little hole, this is where the oil comes out to get in to feed the bar with oil. You want to make sure that is cleaned out. And you see the hole at the top of the bar? That's how the oil gets to the chain. You want to make sure that's good and clear. And like I showed you before, you want to run something down the inside of the groove to make sure that all the debris is cleaned out. Okay? Let's go ahead and work at installing this, okay? I keep saying okay a lot, don't I? You want to hear a little story real fast? What got me into saws? I grew up cutting firewood. We burnt wood for forever. And just over time there, I got to knowing, chainsaws pretty well. And I've always been a fan of engines, and chainsaw just, I don't know. I've always been a fan of two-strokes in particular. And that's kind of what got me gravitated into the chainsaws. 20 years I've been, 20 maybe more years that I've been messing with engines. So I have the chain roughly in place. Now I'm going to show you that all I got to do is slide it out here, but you see that it's not quite lining up right. I'm going to make this a little easier. I'm going to take the screwdriver, okay, flathead screwdriver, and I'm going to show you where the adjuster is. You see that screw right there in the front? That's my chain adjuster. So all I'm going to do is loosen that up until it's lined up. Okay, watch what happens as I turn it loose. See how it's starting to come back? See? Simple as that. Now it'll slide right into place, like it should. See that? Now the next step is to reinstall the outer bar plate. Now I gotta get a new one, but for now, that'll work. And then I'm gonna put my clutch cover back on. Okay? This is the way you should look right now. The chain should be real loose and hanging. Now I'm going to take my two nuts, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to finger tighten. Now there's supposed to be washers behind these nuts, so if you have this style of a nut, there's supposed to be a washer behind it. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and put it back together. I got to go get some washers, or you can replace the nuts with a style that has a washer built into it. Now I'm not left-handed, but I'm doing the best I can. So there I am. I'm just finger tight right now. Now I'm going to start adjusting my chain for tension. All right. If you're loose, if you're too loose, the chain will easily pop off. So you want to make sure your chain stays at least semi-tight. I'm going to start turning my adjuster to tighten the chain, and watch what happens as I turn it. You're going to see the chain come up. See that? Comes right up. Now that I got it kind of on there, I'm going to start turning it, because right now it was a little off, and just by turning it, it kind of seated in place. Now I'm going to turn it a little bit more. See how it brought it up? Now another thing you want to look at as you do this, you want to lift the bar up in the air. You see how as I lift, the chain's looser? So I want it tight as the bar is lifted. If you tighten it up here and then tighten your nuts up, as soon as you start cutting wood, the bar will creep upwards. And the next thing you know, you got a loose chain. Okay? So you want to lift as you're doing this. Now, since I'm doing this with one hand, I'm just going to have to kind of judge it. So it's still a little loose. Okay, there we go. You see whenever I lift it, you see how much chain is sticking up? It's nice and snug. So now, whenever I finish tightening these bolts up, this is all that's left to do, is to tighten these up. But I got to use 2 hands to do it, because I got to lift this up while I'm tightening the 2 bolts. But once that's done, this process is finished. Now, another thing I didn't stress enough is to make sure your chain is on the right direction. And I'm going to show you something. Whenever I got this saw, I got it because the guy couldn't get it to cut wood. And he couldn't get it to cut wood because he had the chain on backwards. So I'm going to show you the evidence of this. You see how much blackness is on top of the tooth? That's because he was trying to cut wood with the chain running backwards. He had this pointy side facing towards the saw. Now I'm referring to this on the top edge of the bar only. Okay, this does not the same for the bottoms, because on the bottom you want it to run towards the saw, but I'm just going to focus on the top edge. That way, if you're doing this, the top edge is just all you need to worry about, okay? So make sure the pointy side is facing towards the front, towards the point of the bar. If you have it running backwards, if you can see, you see how the tooth is in a slant? All that happens is the wood just kind of glides across the top of the tooth, and you're not actually cutting anything at all. And that's why it's so burnt here, is because he was just trying to burn his straight through the wood instead of cutting it. So make sure your chain is facing towards the tip of the bar when you're looking at the top of it, if you know what I mean. So, a video just for you, buddy. That is, in general, the way you change a chain out. If you have any more questions, just post them, and I'll try to answer them by video as much as I can. Sometimes you might ask a question that I cannot answer by video, but if I can, I will. So I'm going to finish tightening these 2 bolts up and lift the bar, and then this saw will be done. Alrighty. Thanks for the question, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks. Just for a little added footage, what do you think? Got a couple saws here, don't we? I got a couple beside me. I had to pull off the table. Got that McCulloch there. There's a big 82cc 9025. And I got a couple that I'm working on right now. But you're gonna love this project when it comes. You're gonna love it. We're gonna hot rod that sucker. Yep, I said it. We're gonna hot rod a 1950s, I'm guessing, maybe 60s Homelite zip. We're gonna see what kind of performance we can get out of that thing. Even if it blows up in the first couple of minutes, we're just gonna see what happens. Now, if you're not familiar with Homelites, this is a Super XL Auto, and this is also a Super XL Auto. You didn't know that, did you? Some of you might have, but they came in blue and red. Both. That's an XL 700. Back here in the back's another Super XL Auto. Right there's another Super XL Auto. That one's a 360, and there's a Super Easy. Plus a bunch there, and I got a whole bunch more. I got, I think 8 of them sitting right up top of the steps here. Plus other ones in here. I got a lot of projects coming. So keep watching, and you'll get to see all kinds of interesting things, and including hot rod jobs. So, alrighty. Thanks for watching the video. This was not planned out. It was just a spur of the moment. So I'm sure I stumbled over some words, but I think you got the point. Alrighty. Till next one.